What is going on with the bro? Alright guys, today we're going to be talking about Forsaken hitboxes and why they're so bad. Whoa. What's this on my bed here? Oh my god. I think it's evil Raisin Canes. Oh my god. Look at how evil this is, bro.
You make my heart burn. You make my heart burn.
Greetings everyone. Now, it's very clear that TDX has a very ambitious future. We just got Jet Trooper, an entirely new tower. Also, part 2 of the Tower Battles event and Nightmare Mode are supposed to be coming within this year, which I find insane. But before the game gets ahead of itself, I feel like they need to address some aspects of the game that they may have left behind, like certain towers. A common complaint in the TDX community is that new towers are filled with way more bells and whistles than older towers. TDX has been around for almost 2 whole years now, and obviously the game has heavily evolved over time, which results in some older towers feeling extremely outdated and far less mechanically in depth compared to newer towers. I mean, look at a tower like Juggernaut and then look at a tower like Combat Drone or Golden Mobster, and you can definitely see a large difference in mechanical depth and overall design philosophies. So, is there an easy way to fix this problem? Well, obviously, yes. We've seen the TDX development team rework certain towers to make them feel more up to date with the current state of the game. They've also done reworks to certain modes. For example, the Expert rework and Elite rework both had major positive impacts on the game. In my opinion, these were some of the best updates in the game's history, considering they're both main modes within the game and you're going to be constantly playing them. And they are obviously way more important than tower reworks because they're entire game modes that you're going to be playing a lot. So it's important that they're up to date with the current state of balancing and design philosophies. But here's the issue. Remember how I said we just got the newest tower, Jet Trooper? Well, I think this is a problem. Obviously, it's not inherently a bad thing that we're getting new towers, but because there's still a lot of towers that are outdated with the standards of the current landscape of the game is why I think it's kind of problematic that we're getting new towers instead of tower reworks. I understand that the developers probably want to focus on actual new content now rather than reworks, especially after reworking 2 whole main game modes, but I'm worried they'll forget about certain older towers that need to be changed. I'm not saying they will forget because they may have certain reworks going on behind the scenes that they haven't told us about, but I'm just worried. Sure, I've already stated that they've done a few tower reworks for certain towers that were outdated, but this was mainly only for Laser Gunner and Shotgunner, and there are definitely many other towers that are outdated to this very day. Now, when people talk about certain outdated towers, they usually bring up towers like Juggernaut or Ranger, considering these were basically the first 2 towers ever made. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that these towers are in fact outdated, but I feel like a majority of the community already understands how outdated these towers are, so it feels redundant to voice my concerns about these towers. Instead, I'm going to talk about Grenadier, who is the only tower that's hardly even brought up in discussions about outdated and forgotten towers. I think a majority of the community has just completely forgotten this tower even exists. Anyways, for a brief history summary, the Grenadier update came out on the 14th of January in 2024, and it was a fairly small update. There were only 2 big things that were added: Grenadier and match rejoining. And to be perfectly honest, I think I've used the match rejoining feature more than Grenadier himself, which is just hilarious. Considering Grenadier was the main focus of an entire update, you would figure that he wouldn't be this forgotten forgotten. I mean, other towers that were added early in the game's lifespan, like barracks, are still remembered to this very day. But this is just because Grenadier has nothing interesting about his design. Grenadier is one of the very few towers in this game where I feel like they only added it because other Roblox tower defense games have this exact tower archetype. Obviously, there's a lot of towers in TDX that are just archetypes of other towers in Roblox tower defense games, but a majority of those other towers have interesting mechanics that make them stand out. So what exactly makes Grenadier so uninteresting? Well, both of his paths are fairly generic and don't do anything that special. Both of his upgrade paths really don't have any mechanics that make them stand out from any other tower. Let's look at his top path, for example. It is quite literally just a stat stick, which means it has no additional mechanics other than giving the tower better stats, which would be totally fine if the tower had a defined role. Top path Grenadier doesn't really have his own role at all though. There are plenty of other towers that can do crowd control like he does. Other towers can be stat sticks, but in a good way. For example, Railgunner excels at specifically killing bosses, and he can do it far better than most other towers in the game, but he struggles with almost everything else. Top path Grenadier just doesn't have anything to make him unique. He's just a generic splash damage tower with nothing special about him. Top path Grenadier barely even excels in more situations than his own bottom path. Bottom path only has 10 DPS less than top path, and there's way more scenarios where bottom path Grenadier will be useful rather than a generic splash damage tower that doesn't do anything special. Sure, Grenadier's top path may have better cost efficiency, but there's just way better options for crowd control overall. I have not seen a single time where someone legitimately used top path in a real strategy. Now let's actually focus on Grenadier's bottom path. Thankfully, it isn't just a stat stick because it actually adds a new mechanic to the tower, which is allowing it to stun enemies. Bottom path Grenadier can actually be useful in many more situations than top path Grenadier, but that still doesn't prevent it from being overall boring. Bottom path Grenadier has no active abilities, meanwhile almost all of the other stalling towers in the game do. Bottom path has no sort of gimmick, all it does is stun enemies, which makes it feel really boring and outdated compared to other stalling towers. There are also several situations where other stalling towers are simply way more efficient and useful. It's not like bottom path Grenadier is completely useless, but a majority of the time, you're going to find almost all of the other stalling towers a lot more useful, except for Cryo Ranger. Cryo Ranger is booty cheeks. So you may be asking, how could Grenadier be fixed? Well, to put it simply, I really don't have any ideas, but simply looking around the TDX community, you can find people wanting this tower to be changed and proposing potential rework ideas for the tower. So my dear viewer, it is our job to simply not let this tower go completely forgotten and spread the word across the community, because I want to see this tower actually improve and be up to date with the current state of the game, discuss potential rework ideas within the community, and maybe present your rework ideas to higher ups in the TDX community, and maybe the devs might actually be able to see your ideas. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments, and goodbye.